Back in the late 90s, I was a teen who loved the dark forests of Black Hollow Ridge. That passion came from my grandfather, Harland Pike, a man who, I swear, would have become a feral mountain hermit if he hadn't fallen in love with my grandmother and settled down as a bank accountant of all things. People who met Grandpa in town, short, wiry, tie-in shirt, would never have guessed the rugged beast he became on weekends. When Friday arrived, it was as if Clark Kent stepped into a cabin instead of a phone booth and came out a hardened woodsman. By the time I began hunting with him, he was retired, all calloused hands and stories of the deep woods. We often went out together, me, my older sister Jess, and Mom. Grandma and Dad hated the trips. Grandma couldn't stand the killing. Dad just couldn't shoot straight to save his life. Those were good years until life unraveled. Grandma got sick and died. Mom and Dad split up bitterly, Jess married and moved away, and Grandpa grew old and alone. I stayed near Black Hollow, running a small general store. Grandpa often sat in a rocker out front, part-time greeter, full-time storyteller. I offered him a room at my place, but he refused, saying he'd just stink up the house with his cigars. I suspected the real reason. He had a crush on one of the nurses at the assisted living home where he lived. One rainy Saturday, I went to visit him. He was unusually cheerful, playing cards and laughing until tears welled in his eyes. Finally, he told me why. A letter from his doctor, brain tumor, inoperable. Me, why in God's name are you smiling about this? Grandpa, you'll understand when you're 82. I'm ready to see your grandma again. It's like finishing a good book. I couldn't stay angry for long. I asked if there was anything he still wanted to do. His eyes lit up. Grandpa, there's one beast that got away. Take me hunting. One last time. We hiked 4 days into the ash timber forest, Grandpa leaning on a cane. We camped beneath black pines and cold stars, talking more than walking. On the 5th night, he told me about the creature, something he called the Shatterpaw. Grandpa, first saw it decades ago with your mom. Thought it was a werewolf, till I remembered werewolves don't stand in daylight. It had paws twisted like shattered bone frozen mid-step. I've seen it watching me, again and again, across the tree line. It wants me, Marcus. Been waiting all these years. I tried to laugh it off. Figured the tumor was messing with him. Yet his face was deadly serious. We hunted for hours, stumbling like two ghosts chasing a myth. I had secretly disabled his hunting rifle. I wasn't about to arm an 82-year-old with shaking hands. Night fell. We cooked burgers over the camp stove, then lay down in the tent. A few hours later, he shook me awake. Grandpa, whispering, "Can you smell it? That stench? Like wet iron and rot." Me, "I don't smell a thing." Grandpa, "Only a few can. Means it's near." Before I could argue, he grabbed a revolver I didn't know he had, unzipped the tent, and stepped out into the dark. The bonfire outside was roaring. Too bright, too hot for a damp forest night. He turned to me, eyes reflecting the flames. Grandpa, "I know you sabotaged my rifle. I had to steal a working gun. Marcus, I think you're the Shatterpaw." He raised the pistol at me, trembling. Me, "What? I'm your grandson." Grandpa, "You've worn its shape since the day it marked me. Shoot me in the head to prove you're not it, or I'll have to shoot you." I dropped my useless rifle. He hesitated, shame flickering in his eyes. I stepped toward him slowly. Me, "You just want to go on your own terms, don't you? This isn't the way." His gun lowered. For a moment I thought the nightmare was over, until a low growl rippled through the trees. Grandpa spun toward the sound. Grandpa, down! I dove aside as 3 deafening cracks split the night. A heavy body slammed to the ground between us. A massive mountain cougar, its eyes still glinting in firelight. Grandpa's first shot had been perfect, right between the eyes. We stared at the cougar's corpse, stunned. The Shatterpaw hadn't shown itself, at least, not in any form we expected. Dragging that beast back to town took 5 more days. The strain worsened Grandpa's health. He developed a lung infection and passed away in his sleep a few months later. I had the cougar mounted and displayed in my store with a plaque telling the story, until I donated it to the Black Hollow Museum in Grandpa's honor. To his last breath, Grandpa admitted the part about me being the creature was nonsense, an idea he stole from a TV show. But he swore that his first sighting of the Shatterpaw decades ago was real. I still wonder if anyone in those woods ever finds tracks shaped like splintered animal paws. Tell it that an old hunter died still dreaming of one final shot. I've been with my company for nearly 6 years now, long enough to gain seniority over the other guards and earn better assignments. My main post was the Cold Pines Medical Facility, an old tuberculosis sanatorium converted into a private hospital on the outskirts of town. Most people hated the night shifts there. The endless echoing halls, flickering lights, and that smell of bleach clinging to the walls. But I liked the quiet. Fewer patients meant fewer problems. By 11 p.m., the lobby emptied, and my rounds began. Basement to rooftop, flashlight in hand, my boots clicking on cracked tile. The building had been modernized, but beneath the paint and plaster, you could feel the bones of the original asylum. Doors that didn't quite fit their frames, narrow stairwells that whispered when the wind slid through. My partner on most nights was Evan, a rookie who thought ghost stories were a waste of breath. The first time I mentioned Cold Pine's dark history, he laughed. "Evan, you believe in that crap? I'd worry more about junkies sneaking in than some phantom nun." Me, "Wait until the elevator moves by itself. Then we'll see you laugh." Around 2 a.m., routine usually dulled our senses. But one Thursday night, everything changed. The cameras in Wing C began to fuzz with static. That wing hadn't been in use for decades. Boarded up patient rooms, peeling wallpaper like dead skin. Evan, "Probably rats chewed the wires again." Me, "Rats don't knock out 4 feeds at once." We decided to check it out. The hallway smelled damp, like a flooded basement, though the floors were dry. A chill settled over us, one of those cold patches you walk through as if stepping into a freezer. Halfway down the corridor, the overhead bulbs flickered and went dark. We stood in the beam of my flashlight, our breaths visible though it was mid-July. Then came the footsteps above us, slow, dragging, as though someone was pacing on the floor right above the abandoned wing. Evan, whispering, "We're alone up there, right?" Me, "Unless the dead clocked in for a shift." We climbed the iron stairwell toward the second floor. Each step groaned beneath our boots. When we reached the top, the corridor ahead was darker than the one below, its windows painted black from the old days when they tried to keep out the sun. I called out into the dark. Me, "Security. Anyone up here needs to identify themselves." The only reply was a metallic clank from the far end of the hallway, like a bed frame being dragged. Evan tightened his grip on his baton. We advanced slowly until the beam of my flashlight landed on something that made my stomach tighten. A rust-colored smear on the floor leading into room 214. The door was slightly ajar. Evan, "Could be a hurt animal." Me, "Or someone bleeding out. Call it in." Before he could radio dispatch, the door creaked wider on its own. I swept the light inside. The room was empty except for an old gurney tipped on its side. No blood trail, no patient. Then I noticed the smear stopped halfway across the room. Just vanished as if whatever made it had lifted off the ground. The temperature dropped again. Evan cursed under his breath. From the hallway came a hollow giggle, high-pitched, childlike, but stretched too thin, like a cassette tape warping the sound. Evan bolted a step toward the stairwell, but I grabbed his arm. Me, "Don't run. That's what it wants." Evan, "What it wants? What the hell is it?" The answer came as the corridor lights burst into a stuttering flicker, flashing glimpses of a tall, gray figure standing at the far end. It leaned crookedly against the wall, its head cocked at an unnatural angle, long arms dangling toward the floor. Every time the lights blinked back on, it was closer. Blink, 10 feet closer. Blink, 5 feet. I raised my flashlight, but the beam passed straight through it. That's when Evan finally panicked and ran. I backed toward the stairwell, trying to keep my eyes on the figure even as my pulse thundered in my ears. On the last flicker before darkness swallowed the hallway, the figure was inches from my face. its jaw unhinged as if about to scream. But no sound came. The corridor went black. I scrambled down the stairs 2 at a time and found Evan already at the lobby, radioing frantically. When we checked the cameras again, all 4 feeds in Wing C were crystal clear, as if nothing had happened. We filed the report, though I doubt the supervisors believed a word. They blamed an electrical surge for the outages. Evan quit 2 weeks later, claimed night shifts weren't worth the paycheck. I stayed partly because I needed the job, and partly because I couldn't shake the feeling that Cold Pines wasn't finished with me yet. Some nights, while making my rounds, I still hear it, that soft dragging of feet above my head, pacing the empty wing. I never go upstairs anymore when it happens. You shouldn't either. I've always been a loner, which is probably why I took the night shift maintenance job at the Widow's Peak rest stop off the Old Mountain Highway. It was the kind of place most travelers avoided after dark. 2 flickering gas pumps, a bathroom that hadn't been remodeled since the 70s, and a reputation for things seen on the road that shouldn't be there. I'd been there nearly 4 years, working graveyard hours. The first 2 years were uneventful. I swept floors, fixed leaky sinks, and occasionally helped stranded drivers change a tire. But last winter changed everything. The rest stop sits in a valley pocketed by woods, with the highway winding down from the cliffs like a gray ribbon. Fog rolls in thick after sunset, swallowing the forest in heavy sheets that muffle sound. That particular night, it was just me and Hector, the cashier. We had the heaters on full blast, but the glass doors still fogged from the bitter cold outside. The clock above the coffee machine had just ticked past 2:15 a.m. when the first phone call came in. Me, Widow's Peak rest stop, maintenance desk. Voice. Help me. It's right behind me. The voice was low, trembling. Definitely a man, though his words crackled with static as if he was calling from an old rotary phone. Me. Sir, where are you calling from? Voice. Don't look at its face. The line went dead. I stared at the receiver for a moment, unsettled. We rarely got calls, especially not at that hour. Hector noticed my expression. Hector, wrong number. Me, I don't think so. We shrugged it off, figuring it was a prank. 10 minutes later, the phone rang again. Same static-laced voice, same plea for help. Voice, it's closer now, please. I asked again for his location, but he only whispered something that sounded like, don't let it touch the door. The call dropped before I could say another word. Hector and I exchanged uneasy glances. The fog outside had grown so thick we couldn't see the highway lamps anymore. Around 3 a.m., the motion alarm for the north parking lot went off. I grabbed my flashlight and went to check. The fog clung to me like wet cloth. My beam barely cut 10 feet ahead. That's when I saw it. A pair of bare footprints in the frost leading away from the edge of the lot toward the treeline. The prints were deep, as though whoever left them had been carrying something heavy. But there were no return tracks. I followed them a few steps before common sense told me to stop. The woods were silent, too silent for winter. Not a branch snapped, not a breath of wind. When I got back inside, the phone was ringing again. This time Hector answered, put it on speaker. Voice. Please. It's at the glass. Don't let it in. Hector's face drained of color. We both turned toward the glass entrance doors. Through the fogged glass, a tall shadow loomed, slender, unmoving. Its outline was wrong. The arms hung lower than its knees, and its head tilted so sharply it looked broken. Hector, whispering, is that a person? Me, I don't know. I reached for the phone to call the state patrol, but the line was dead. Hector pulled out his cell, no signal. The shadow outside pressed its hand against the glass. The frost around the contact point melted instantly, as though its skin burned cold enough to cut through ice. Hector, it's just standing there, staring. I killed the interior lights, hoping it couldn't see us as well, but somehow I felt it could. Then it moved. A slow scrape of its palm down the glass, leaving behind a dark, wet streak that steamed in the cold. We barricaded the door with a metal cart. For a while, silence. I thought maybe it had gone. until the phone rang again. Voice. Don't open the back door. My heart sank. We had forgotten the service door near the storage room. We rushed to it just in time to see the doorknob twisting on its own, rattling like something was trying to force its way inside. Hector grabbed a wrench from under the counter, ready to swing if anything came through. The knob stilled. Then came 3 slow knocks. Not pounding, just soft knocks that felt deliberate. Me, go away. No reply, no movement. Eventually, the knocking stopped, and we heard slow footsteps trailing away into the gravel lot. We stayed frozen like that until dawn's first light seeped through the fog. When the morning crew arrived at 6, the doors showed no marks, and the parking lot held no footprints, not even ours. The phone line worked again as if nothing had happened. We checked the security footage, but every camera between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. was nothing but static. Hector quit the next day. I stayed, someone had to, but I never work a shift now without keeping every door chained shut after midnight. Sometimes, when the fog gets heavy enough, I think I see a handprint forming on the glass again. If you ever pass Widow's Peak rest stop on a winter night and see a figure by the door, don't answer if it knocks.